Today we're going to be reading a short story by Ernest Hemingway called Hills Like White Elephants. It was first published in a magazine in August 1927. Hemingway is an American short story writer, and then it was published again that same year in a collection called Men Without Women, which sounds pretty interesting to me. And then in the year 2002, there was a 38-minute film adaptation of it, but the original story was published in 1927. Would you like to go ahead and start reading?
Okay, I'll take the first paragraph. The hills across the valley of the Ebro were long and wide. On this side there was no shade and no trees, and the station was between two lines of rails in the sun. Close against the side of the station there was the warm shadow of the building and a curtain made of strings of bamboo beads hung across the open door into the bar to keep out flies. The American and the girl with him sat at a table in the shade outside the building. It was very hot, and the express from Barcelona would come in 40 minutes. It stopped at this junction for 2 minutes and went on to Madrid.
What should we drink? The girl asked. She had taken off her hat and put it on the table. It's pretty hot, the man said. Let's drink beer. Dos cervezas, the man said into the curtain. Big ones? A woman asked from the doorway. Yes, 2 big ones. The woman brought 2 glasses of beer and 2 felt pads. I guess they mean coasters. She put the felt pads and the beer glasses on the table and looked at the man and the girl. The girl was looking off at the line of hills. They were white in the sun and the country was brown and dry. They looked like white elephants, she said. I've never seen one. The man drank his beer. No, you wouldn't have. I might have, the man said. Just because you say I wouldn't have doesn't prove anything. The girl looked at the beaded curtain. They've painted something on it, she said. What does it say? Anís del Toro. It's a drink. Could we try it?
The man called, "Listen," through the curtain. The woman came out from the bar. 4 reales. We want 2 Anís del Toro. With water. Do you want it with water? I don't know, the girl said. Is it good with water? It's all right. You want them with water? Asked the woman. Yes, with water. Tastes like licorice, the girl said, and put the glass down. That is the way with everything.
Yes, said the girl. Everything tastes of licorice, especially all the things you waited so long for, like absinthe. Oh, cut it out. You started it, the girl said. I was being amused. I was having a fine time. Well, let's try and have a fine time. All right, I was trying. I said the mountains looked like white elephants. Wasn't that bright?
Oh, that was bright. I want to try this new drink. That's all we do, isn't it? Look at things and try new drinks. I guess so. The girl looked across at the hills. They're lovely hills, she said. They don't really look like white elephants. I just meant the coloring of their skin through the trees. Should we have another drink? All right. The warm wind blew the bead curtain against the table. The beer is nice and cool, the man said. It's lovely, the girl said. It's really an awfully simple operation, Jake, the man said. It's not really an operation at all. The girl looked at the ground the table legs rested on.
I know you wouldn't mind it, Jig. It's really not anything. It's just to let the air in. The girl didn't say anything. I'll go with you and I'll stay with you the whole time. Let's just let the air in and then it's all perfectly natural. Well, then what are we going to do afterward? Well, we'll be fine, just like we were before. What makes you think so? That's the only thing that bothers us. It's the only thing that's made us unhappy. The girl looked at the beaded curtain, put her hand out, and took hold of two of the strings of beads. And do you think then that we'll be all right and we'll be happy? I know we will. You don't have to be afraid. I've known lots of people that have done it.
So have I, said the girl. And afterward they were also happy. Well, the man said, if you don't want to, you don't have to. I wouldn't have you do it if you didn't want to, but I know it's perfectly simple. And you really want to? I think it's the best thing to do, but I don't want you to do if you don't really want it. And if I do it, you'll be happy and things will be like they were and you'll love me. I love you now. You know I love you. I know. But if I do it, then it will be nice again if I say things I like white elephants and you like it. I'll love it. I love it now, but I just can't think about it. You know how I get when I worry.
If I do it, you won't ever worry? I won't worry about that because it's perfectly simple. Well, then I'll do it because I don't care about me. What do you mean? I don't care about me. Well, I care about you. Oh, yes, but I don't care about me. And I'll do it and then everything will be fine. I don't want you to do it if you feel that way. The girl stood up and walked to the end of the station. Across the other side were fields of grain and trees along the banks of the Ebro. Far away beyond the river were mountains. The shadow of a cloud moved across the field of grain, and she saw the river through the trees. And we could have all this, she said. We could have everything, and every day we make it more impossible. What did you say? I said we could have everything. We can have everything. No, we can't. We can have the whole world. No, we can't. We can go everywhere. No, we can't. It isn't ours anymore. It is ours.
No, it isn't. And once they take it away, you'll never get it back. But they haven't taken it away. You'll wait and see. Come on back in the shade, he said. You mustn't feel that way. I don't feel any way, the girl said. I just know things. I don't want you to do anything that you don't want to do. Nor that isn't good for me, she said. I know. Would you have another beer? All right, but you've got to realize, I realize, the girl said. Can't we maybe stop talking? They sat down at the table, and the girl looked across at the hills on the dry side of the valley, and the man looked at her and at the table. You have got to realize, he said, that I don't want you to do it if you don't want to. I'm perfectly willing to go through with it if it means anything to you. Doesn't it mean anything to you? We could get along.
Well, of course it does. But I don't want anyone but you. I don't want anyone else. And I know it's perfectly simple. You know it's perfectly simple? It's all right for you to say that, but I do know it. Would you do something for me now? I'll do anything for you. Would you please, 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 please stop talking? He didn't say anything but looked at the bags against the wall of the station. There were labels on them from all the hotels where they had spent nights. But I don't want you to, he said. I don't care anything about it. I'll scream, the girl said. The woman came through the curtains with 2 glasses of beer and put them down on the damp felt pads. The train comes in 5 minutes, she said. What did she say? Asked the girl. That the train is coming in 5 minutes. The girl smiled brightly at the woman to thank her.
I'd better take the bags over to the other side of the station, the man said. She smiled at him. All right, then come back. We'll finish the beer. He picked up the 2 heavy bags and carried them around the station to the other trucks. He looked up the trucks, but could not see the train. Coming back, he walked through the barroom, where people waiting for the train were drinking. He drank an anise at the bar and looked at the people. They were all waiting reasonably for the train. He went out through the bead curtain. She was sitting at the table and smiled at him. Do you feel better? He asked. I feel fine, she said. There's nothing wrong with me. I feel fine. I guess that's the end. How did you like the story?
It's very different reading it out loud. I have read this story many times, just, in various anthologies. Quite often it's in collected short story books of American literature. But it's also different to read it with another person because you get the kind of back and forth with the other person. How about you?
Well, it's an interesting in itself because there is no information about the background of what's going on. And also there is a 90% dialogue. And also, as you said, if you read it with somebody else, makes it easily because you have a few minutes to take your breath back. But then again, it's a little bit different because you have to adjust yourself to the opponent and to pick up where you stopped. But I like it. I don't know why. I understand that they're talking about the abortion, most likely.
Yes, and also
and somehow there's tragic. Mm-hmm. Tell me.
Also, near the end, he's carrying their suitcases, and there's all these stickers on these suitcases. So in the 1920s, when the expatriates left the United States to go to Europe and travel all around, like, the Fitzgeralds, Hemingway, Gertrude Stein, all these people, they would get a sticker when they would stay at a famous hotel and they just put it on their bag. So this couple has been just sort of traveling around, enjoying a life of leisure, drinking, staying in hotels, just kind
How
of.
old are they?
Well, she's pregnant, so,
Yeah, well, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, she could be 20 or 30 or 40.
Well,
yeah, it does mean something, but I mean, how old would they be?
To a man, it doesn't mean anything. To a woman. No, what I mean is...
No, I don't want to look like a pig here because I'm totally on her side.
Pig? No, what I mean is I imagine this couple, I just imagine them to be, maybe in their 30s, maybe.
No, I think a little bit younger because that's her first child probably, and maybe 22 because it was like in 40s, and 40s people get married young, early, I mean.
No, this was written in 1927.
Oh, so even earlier, of course, she's 20, I think 21, 22 max.
So these are women who were these were like the flappers, that women who were wearing short skirts, and they were smoking cigarettes, and they were using birth control, and they were doing whatever they felt like it. So it was kind of, a woman's world. She had control of her body, and she could, she wasn't tied down to a house and a husband and a baby. So, women
She's not
were
defined by her relationship, right?
Right, but she's with this guy, and they're kind of traveling, and they need to go into Madrid, and they're kind of just drinking. And now we know in the year 2023 that if you're pregnant, you're not supposed to be drinking because you can have a baby that would have fetal alcohol syndrome, which means the baby wouldn't be born quite so normally. But they've been living this life together of traveling and drinking and just going places and enjoying themselves. They're just all about pleasure.
It doesn't look like they're enjoying themselves because they're totally upset. I mean, both of them. Maybe they had a little bit fun, but now and I'm not sure if there is the future holds any more fun for them.
Well, they keep saying, it's going to go back to the way it was. It's going to go back to the way it was, but it
It
never
won't.
actually does. They both keep
Exactly.
that, um, sometimes women will end a pregnancy to keep the man, but it's never actually quite the same because there is some kind of brief, ever so passing commitment to the unborn child that you somehow like not that anybody's really in favor of abortions, but these are just things that people do. And the title of the story, Hills Like White Elephants. An elephant is a large kind of bloated animal, so we don't see anything about her body. We just know she has found out that she's pregnant. They never even used the word, but they just keep talking about, well, should we do it? Are we going to do this? We're going to do that. And,
In
and
the very beginning, you said, sorry, go on.
well, I mean, finally, she just said, we just shut up and stop talking. Like, she just wants to get the whole thing over with so she can just go on to her life as it was before. She just wants to get it over with. And he just keeps going, well, do you really want to do this? Well, I'll be there. Do you want to do this? And she just wants like, shut up. Go ahead.
No, I'm thinking it's a tragic story, tragic love story, I would say. And the word, when I read it, the last paragraph, we said that when he was coming back and he walked through the bar room, and there were people, what were they doing? Let me find it. Waiting reasonably for the train. It somehow stuck with me. They were all waiting reasonably for the train.
Yeah, that's a good.
Does that
That's a
sound
good.
all right?
No, that was that. The copy I'm reading from has a couple study questions at the end of it, and whoever wrote these study questions asks the readers to look at that word reasonably. Like the other people, we just assume are going someplace. They're just riding the train, but they are eager to get on this train and get this situation taken care of in Madrid. So they're tense, they're anxious, they're drinking, they're arguing. It's an unreasonable, difficult time that they're just trying to wait for the train. And meanwhile, they're just like, having some drinks and kind of bickering. I don't think that they're arguing, they're just bickering. And
Also, you also said that it's part of a larger story, larger novel, Man Without Woman.
Well, it's a collection. It's a collection. This short story, a short story generally involves one episode, whereas a novel is a series of things that happen. So this is centered around the one episode at the train station. So it was written in 1927, but it was in a magazine. So this little story came out in a magazine, but later Hemingway published it in a collection of his short stories, and the name of the collection was called Men Without Women, which is interesting that he would put that story in that collection.
The title somehow appeals to me.
Men Without Demanding Women is, I think, what appeals to you. No one wants to be burdened by the really difficult things of life, like, financing a house or trying to figure out how to put kids through college or what to do about some difficult in-laws or, we all want to live free and happy and imagine that life doesn't have problems, but problems are real. And, we just have to like man up. That's the expression, man up and deal with it. So, yeah, I was not aware that was the title of the collection. I have always read this in an anthology, and I have some other Hemingway short stories in other collections, but he was quite a prolific writer. And I'm going to look afterwards at what else is in this collection called Men Without Women.
Yeah, I'm thinking. somehow it spoke to me.
Also, I like very specific details in the story. You know, she goes, well, what should we drink? And she takes off her hat and puts it on the table. It's pretty hot, the man said. Let's drink a beer. So the conversation is very real. It's a conversation that many people have had. You know, this was written in 1927. It could have been written yesterday. It could have been written in Dallas. It could have been written in Brooklyn. It could have been written in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It could have been written, you know, in Flagstaff, Arizona. It could have been written anywhere. It's such a clear, he's like the master of dialogue. And there's this other woman who's the serving girl who comes through this beaded curtain. And, you know, she comes back and forth and they not only have a beer, but then they have some kind of, you know, licorice flavored drink, and then they have another beer. And I think they're just drinking to keep from talking. But, you know, he keeps saying, like, well, are you sure you want to do this? Like, you know, it's very simple. You know, are you sure? And then finally she just has to tell him to shut up. Stop talking. Just stop it.
You know, I read another story by Hemingway. It's called Cat in the Rain. Maybe we'll get to read it sometime. And I'm wondering if it's a sequel of this one.
Oh, The Cat in the Rain is good. I love that one. It's a man and a woman that are in a hotel. It's the same sort of setup. It may not be a sequel, but it's the same sort of setup. There's a man and a woman that are in a hotel, and it's kind of raining. And he's sitting on the bed or writing in his notebook or doing something in the room. And she goes to the window and kind of glances out, and she has her hair cut short. So this would be around the time of the 1920s when women cut their hair and they were more free with themselves. And she's looking out the window and she sees this little kitty cat under this little table in this cafe. And then she's just sort of talking out loud, like, I really want that little kitty cat. And the guy's not even listening, like, what? And she's just kind of talking out loud. I'm going to go get that cat. And he says, well, it's raining. And she goes like, well, I know it's raining. So then, you know, she goes downstairs and he says something really oblique like, well, don't get wet. And then she goes down there and, you know, we'll read the story, but there is a concierge, a man at the desk of the hotel who is observing this woman. And I believe that she's an American in this story too. And it has a very nice little ending. But yeah, I think we could read that one, you know, also. That was a good connection. I like that connection.
I feel upset for no reason.
Well, you're upset.
Both stories somehow made me upset.
I feel great. No, I don't know. You know, like laughter is a defense mechanism, like stuff that hits home. You sometimes like, oh, that's really funny. It's like, yeah, right.
Yeah, maybe it's just hit close.
Yeah. I mean, I was on a train once in Sicily, and I was with a person that I didn't love anymore, but he didn't know it. And I just looked out the window. I'm on this train, and, you know, in Italy, the trains never run on time. In Switzerland and Germany, they're always on time. They're even early. But in, you know, Italy, especially in Sicily, do not run on time. The train stops in the middle of a field, and some guy gets off with a basket and just starts walking across the field. So it's probably the train conductor's cousin who was going home for lunch. And I just remember looking out the train window thinking, as soon as I get back to the United States, I'm divorcing this guy. And then I remember he had gone to another part of the train to get us some lemonade. And he came back onto the train and goes, hey, I bought us some lemonade. I go, yeah. Now listen to the last line of Hills Like White Elephants. I feel fine. She said, there's nothing wrong with me. I feel fine. Which is like, oh yeah, thanks for the lemonade. You know, they say that men are rather direct and never really know that women are plotting other things while they're together. Men are they're just there in the moment, but women are quite often a bit mischievous, and you can be there with a woman, and meanwhile she's thinking of divorcing you or getting together with some other guy. I have to
Tell you
admit
what. Tell you what. You said at the beginning 5 minutes ago that you were with a person and he didn't know that you didn't love him anymore. Well, tell you what. They always know.
yeah, especially since he was having an affair with a.
That's not the point.
No, I'm saying, okay, well, anyhow, I was on a train and I looked out the window and decided we just finished the trip. We just finished the trip. We'd already had the tickets for 45 days, traveling all over Europe. We went all the way up into Denmark. We went crisscross back in all over Europe. And, we just had to finish the trip and get back to Houston. So, yeah, I agree.
When I was a child, my grandmother had these white elephants, I guess 7 or a few, like about 7 more or less, made out of not plastic, but maybe they were
ceramic.
Out of bone. Maybe ceramic or something. Also, this dialogue, when I read it, this part when they keep, I don't want you to, unless like she doesn't have to do if she doesn't want to, he doesn't want to because she doesn't want to. That kind of confused me a little bit, and I wasn't sure that I was going to make through this part.
Yeah, a lot of people think that men don't want the baby and that they make women have an abortion. But actually, I've had several experiences with some students. They were adults. This one young, he was, I don't know, how old was he at that time? I don't know, maybe he was like 27. He was a college student of mine that became a friend of mine. And we had gone to some like Asian restaurant to eat food or something. We're sitting there talking, and he was just telling me that, this girlfriend that he had was going to do something really terrible. And I kept thinking like, wow, what is it? And he told me that, she was going to have an abortion and he didn't want her to do it. And would I please talk to her? I go, well, okay, And then he got on his phone and he stood up from the restaurant and talked, went over to the side of the restaurant to talk to her. And then he came back to sit down. We're sitting on this patio restaurant. This was maybe 8 years ago. And he had this ashen look on his face. He goes, she already did it. And then he just sat down, and I saw that he put his head in his hands and he was like going to cry, but like men aren't supposed to cry. So he got up and he went into the bathroom and put water on his face. And yeah, it was sad. Wow, now I feel sad.
Yeah,
well, tell me about
I'll go
these
and be upset for the rest of the day. Sad and upset.
Tell me. Yeah.
Seriously, I can't talk anymore. Men not supposed to cry only when somebody sees them. When nobody sees, well, it's okay to cry. I'm gonna go and cry. Talk to you later.